Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Pikel, and today is the day that the World's Draw happened. So I already released another video earlier today. I had a lot of people watch, which was nice. So if you're somebody who's never watched my channel before but is here for Worlds, welcome, and get ready to try and make some money. So again, disclaimer, this is mostly about betting. So for those of you who are not familiar with betting, some of this information isn't going to make a lot of sense to you, or you might get a little lost. If you have questions, you can ask in the comments section, and I will try to help you. If you want access to my information in general throughout the season, I pick every single game. I don't bet every single game, but I pick every single game with the side that I prefer. And I post it in Discord. So if you want to check out my Discord, you have to pay $10 a month through my Patreon, and that gives you access to DFS and regular betting that I give out picks for. And then, in reality, like, I know a lot of people don't necessarily want to pay for information like that, but the reason why I put it behind a paywall is because those people get more access to me. They can ask questions, and I think that almost everyone who has joined has stuck around because I am interactive. Like, I do talk to them if they have questions, and it helps support the channel. It helps me justify spending my time on this because I have a full-time job, and this is a hobby that I love. But at the end of the day, you know, if it wasn't... Some days I don't want to make videos, but I do anyways because I have people who want my information. So that's just a little bit of a background on that. So what I'm going to do for Worlds this year is I'm going to start off with a $1,000 bankroll, and I'm going to make a bunch of $20 bets throughout the tournament. Now, some of you may ask yourself, well, Pikel, if you think you're so good at sports betting, why aren't you risking more money? Well, like I said earlier, I have a full-time job. I don't need the money that I make from betting, but it's fun and it's a hobby, and it makes me a little bit more interested. I try a little harder to get information right because nobody enjoys losing their hard-earned money. And the other aspect of that, outside of, you know, wanting to win money and all that, is that I'm a system-oriented person in general. So in betting, most people have something called units, where one unit is equal to a certain amount of money, and when they're communicating to people roughly how much money they're betting on something, they'll say it in regards to the number of units that they're betting on something. So if I absolutely loved a bet and I thought that the sportsbook was completely wrong, maybe I would bet multiple units on one bet. But since I have a $1,000 bankroll and $20 units, you know, I don't know how often I'm going to make multiple bets unless I see something that's completely egregious. But throughout the tournament, I'm going to try to make videos every single day about the bets that I like, why I like them, and just discuss my thought process on things, so that if you have some extra money that you want to try to wager on these games, you can give it a shot as well. And obviously, if you're going to suffer from the amount of money that you lose, then you should not be betting. And I think that is something that a lot of people need to hear. So with that being said, let's take a look at some of the bets that I've made so far. So first up, we have the winner for Group C. Winner for Group C, I have my pick as the play-in qualifier. So the reason why I think that's a pretty good bet is because I'm pretty sure that if Hanwha Life makes it through the play-in stage, that it's going to be Hanwha Life going into the group with RNG, Mad Lions, and Team Liquid. And it's not that I think that Hanwha Life should be the favorite but they're much better than plus 600. So this is what's considered a bet that you're making because of value. Like, I think that these odds are just incorrect. So I'm getting additional value. Like, there's a larger percent of the time that the bet hits than the implied odds from the plus 600. So that's the first bet. I risked $20 to win $140. So that's the first one. This is a prop bet. This is for the shortest game at Worlds. And generally, I don't make too many prop bets that are based on time, or like number of dragons, like those kinds of things. I just generally don't do that for individual matches. But at a tournament like Worlds, where there are so many games, I'm fine. I'm like more risk tolerant to make this kind of bet. It's $20 to win $36. I'm not going to get rich off of this, but it seemed good enough because I think that a lot of the time you'll see a completely lopsided match. Not a lot of the time. It's not going to happen often, but I feel like once every World or once every international event, you get some kind of crazy match that ends in like 18, 19 minutes, or right after Baron spawns, take Baron basically on spawn, end the game. Like, it's going to be right around that 20-minute mark, 21-minute mark. Like, I could see this happening, and obviously that's why I made the bet. If you like any of these bets, let me know which ones you like in the comment section below, and if there are any bets that you've seen out there that you think are very good value that I don't discuss, then you should tell me that as well, because I think that's pretty interesting. And I might want to make that bet too. Okay, so this one is over 27.5 maps during the knockout stage. So once we get into the best of fives, how many individual games will there be? So last year at Worlds, there were 2 3-0s and only 1 3-2, and the rest of them went 3-1. So the number was 27. So they were right on that number. And that's with 2 3-0s. I haven't done any research into how often there are sweeps at Worlds, but I think last year the fact that there was only one best of 5 that went 3-2 is pretty shocking to me. I would expect most of them to go 4 matches. That's really what I would think the average is. So since there are 7 matches, there are 4 quarterfinal matches, 2 semifinal matches, and 1 finals match. If you average 4, you get to 28. So $20 to win $34.54. And again, this isn't a bet that I'm absolutely in love with, but there's enough value there for me to be interested in it. Next up, over 9.5. So the death stuff and the kill stuff, you're really depending on some of these games to be absolute shit shows, which doesn't seem that unlikely to me. So like, could you imagine a support from a play-in team that's an underdog on an engaged champion dying 10 times? I mean, I'm sure that we've seen that before. It's unlikely. This is kind of like not a troll bet where I expect to lose, but again, it's $20 to win $36.66. I'm not breaking the bank here, but it seems like the kind of thing that you want to root for. So when we get some of these games that are complete stomps, I'll have a rooting interest, just hoping that they die like 10 times, which is just pretty insane. I wonder what the actual number is. And for those of you who are looking for other betting content, check out the esportsdepartment.com. Gelati has done some Worlds stuff in the past. He did a Worlds piece last year that was very informative. I don't know if that's still on the site or not, but I do a podcast through the esportsdepartment.com. It's a great website. Check it out. A lot of good content, people over there. So just, shameless plug. Number of dragons slain in a map. So the reason why I picked this one is because when you need one game where you get 8 dragons and you win the bet. So in my mind, if we have a very close match in a hyper carry meta where the teams are kind of playing somewhat apprehensive, trading objectives around the map, one team gets 2 or 3 dragons, the other team gets 2 or 3 dragons, then they start coin flipping dragons, then you have 4 elemental dragons to 3 elemental dragons, and then you get to 1 elder drake and the game ends. That's good enough. That's all you need to happen one time during Worlds, and at Worlds there's going to be, I don't know what the exact number is. I would assume like between 60 to 80 games altogether. And whoever knows that actual number, that's a good piece of information that I should probably know, but I don't. Or at least the projected number of games. So I think that's a good bet. And again, some of these are kind of thin, meaning there's not a lot of value there because for me specifically, because they're not incredibly well informed. But I needed to get some money down on this because I was very excited that it all came out today. Okay, next up. Okay, so this was the top teams from individual regions, and let me pick up. Top LEC team. So Mad Lions was 138, Fnatic was plus 200, and Rogue was plus 500. The thing about the logic behind making this bet is a little all over the place, but just hear me out. So Rogue in a group with Damwon Gaming and FPX is seemingly drawing dead, right? Nobody thinks it'll be Damwon Gaming. Nobody thinks it'll beat FPX, so that's 0-4. There's a good chance that the play-in team in their group is the worst the worst out of the four play-in teams that make it. So if Rogue is able to beat that team twice, then they really are alive. And it's not only like, let's just leave it at that for now. So in my mind, I think that I can definitely see them getting 2 wins, and I think there's a chance they could get 3 or 4 wins. So how do they get to 3 or 4 wins? Can Rogue beat Damwon or FPX in one match? In one game, not even a match. One map. And the answer is yes. We see it every year where there's a surprising upset. Maybe it's on the last day when like Damwon or FPX is already automatically qualified to the next round, and maybe it's impossible for them to impact their seeding. So they're just like, whatever, it's a bullshit game, and they just don't care about it. It's unlikely because there's a lot of like honor and respect associated with these games. They have a lot of people depending on them to play well. Their organizations want them to play well. They don't want to embarrass their team on an international stage. So maybe that's not like the best reason, but I think it's more of a bet like, not only is Rogue seemingly drawing dead, the other two teams, their odds are so much lower because there's so much hype surrounding them. So Fnatic, I think that Fnatic is an interesting option in this one because Fnatic will probably have their games look the closest because of bloodiness. So when Fnatic plays against RNG, I would expect there to be a lot of kills. When Fnatic plays against what is it? 100 Thieves? No. Who's the last team in their group? Let's see. PSG Talon. Okay. So people probably think to themselves, Fnatic should beat RNG. They should beat PSG once or twice, and they should beat the play-in team once or twice, and they might be able to beat RNG once or twice. So let's say on the higher end of things, let's say they do beat PSG twice, and let's say Hanwha Life is the qualifier though. So if Hanwha Life qualifies, I'm pretty sure that they're going into Fnatic's group. So that is going to make it less likely for Fnatic to beat the play-in team twice. And that's really the biggest thing, because getting wins is difficult at Worlds. This isn't me saying like, oh, Fnatic is the worst team at Worlds. It's just when you're playing up against PSG, like if you told me Hanabi beat Adam in lane, I wouldn't be that surprised. If you told me that River, I think it's River, right? Yeah, if you told me that River outplayed Bwipo in the jungle, so like a player who's been playing jungle for almost all of their career, or Bwipo who just went into the jungle and has played well, admittedly. Like I know that Bwipo has played well. I'm not trying to take anything away from Bwipo. But if you told me River outplayed him or PSG outdrafted them, like, I could see that pretty easily happening at least once at Worlds. If you told me that Maple beat Niski, I know that there are a lot of Niski fans out there. I disagree with your player evaluation, your talent evaluation. Maple is not at their peak anymore, but Maple is definitely a good enough player to beat Niski in one game. Like, if you don't even think that's a possibility, then you need to reevaluate how you think about League of Legends. Because Maple doesn't even need to be better than Niski to beat him in one game. Like, it happens all the time. Like, underdogs win. So, like, even if you think that Fnatic is better than PSG, you don't think that Fnatic wins 100% of the time, right? Like, that's just unreasonable. And then last up, Unified and Kaiwing. Do you think that Unified and Kaiwing can beat Upset and Hillsong in a laning phase by maybe not even outplaying them? What if they just outdraft them? Like, those are the kinds of things that people don't want to think about when they're kind of projecting out who they think is going to win a match or how many wins a team is going to get. So I think that Fnatic is probably a better bet than Mad Lions. But again, that's why the odds are skewed. It's not like they're saying bet 50 to win 50 on one of these three teams. Like, pick the right one and you win $50. It's not like that. If you bet, or let's just use 20. If you bet $20 on plus 500, you're going to win $100. If you bet $20 on plus 200, you're only going to win $20. You're going to win $40. And then if you bet at minus 138, you're not even going to make back $20. You're going to make like $17 or $18 or something like that. So it's not that's where value comes in. Like, how is my $20 going to perform over the next month or so? That's really how you have to look at it. Well, you don't have to, but that's the way you should look at it. And then last but not least, Mad Lions. So if Mad Lions got 2-0'd by Gen G, would you really be that surprised? I know that the European fans will say, "Oh my God, that'd be the most insane thing ever." But, like, come on, it's definitely within the realm of possibility. And then the other factor that people might not be thinking about right now is that LNG will go into their group. If they qualify through the knockout round, don't they automatically go into Group D? And if I have that wrong, then maybe my bet is off and my bet is wrong. But I'm pretty sure that's how the seeding would work out. But again, if you know something I don't, please let me know so I stop saying the wrong thing. So in that scenario, could I see Mad Lions going? You really have to give them in order for you to feel comfortable betting on Mad Lions to win top LEC team, you have to think they're going to go 1-1 against Gen G, they're going to go 2-0 against Liquid, and they'll go either 1-1 or 2-0 against the last team. If it's LNG, I think that you basically cannot project them to go 2-0. You could project them to go 1-1, but it's also a real possibility that they go 0-2. And again, I know Mad Lions is so amazing. Oh my God, Humanoid, top 10 player at Worlds. That's a joke. So, you know, the difference between some of the people who are, like, angrily commenting stuff about my opinions on Europe, are you betting real money? Probably not. If you honestly think that Humanoid is one of the best players at Worlds, then there's a lot of free money sitting out there. You should just go bet on Bet365 and then show me your winning bets and just shove it in my face. I bet you won't do it. Because, you know, people love saying that I'm wrong, but they don't love showing me that they won money on stuff. So feel free to prove me wrong. You know, let's play the same game. I'm betting against the sports book. Go ahead, bet against the sports book. Let's see how that goes. So let's go to the next one. Team Liquid. Oh, so basically with Rogue, I think that I do think that people are not they're not giving Rogue enough credit for being able to win 3 to 4 games in their group. I think that Oruamne is definitely the 3rd or 4th best top laner in their group. I think that Inspired is probably Inspired could be the 2nd to 4th. If Blabber, if it's C9, I do like Blabber a lot. and I think that Blabber has not played as well as he can. So I think that there is the potential that Inspired is the worst jungler in the group. But I also think that Tian is kind of past his prime. Tian has played Viego well recently, I think, so that does make him a little bit better in my mind. But there were large periods of time where Tian was really struggling with their champion pool in like the Graves meta and the farming meta. Like Tian just wasn't getting it done. They had 2 other junglers that they were trying to rotate in because they basically thought that Tian was done being like a good League of Legends player or something. Like that guy Bo that was like match fixing or whatever. So there are if there are better junglers in China right now that FPX is considering replacing Tian with, then I mean, would it be that crazy if Blabber or Inspired went out there and won a game because of jungle diff? I think it's possible. And then in the mid lane, I don't think that Larson's as good as Showmaker or Doinby, but maybe stylistically you get into a draft where you can steal a game off of them. Like that's really what you're looking for. And then in the bot lane, I do love Han Sama. I think Han Sama and Trimby, they could end up being the best performing bot lane in this group. Ghost and Beryl are very overrated at this point. Beryl is at their peak is a playmaking support that has some interesting champions that they play. When Senna Pantheon was good, they looked extremely powerful. But at the end of the day, Ghost is a utility AD carry. If this turns into like Damwon just insta-locking utility AD carries all the time, Han Sama has the potential to play a hyper carry champion, survive the laning phase, and then just dominate late game. Like it's easily within it's so easy to imagine that scenario. I don't think that it's the most likely scenario. I think that Damwon is better at drafting than that in general. But you have to remember that Damwon has lost a lot of games this year. Not necessarily matches, but a lot of games to lesser teams. Like they've gotten swept domestically by bottom of the table teams. So you got to find some like advantages during the draft. You have to play intelligently, play aggressive in the early game, and in my opinion, try to beat up on the bot lane. Because if they put Showmaker on like a TF or something like that, and then they have a losing matchup in the bot lane, they might not have enough damage in the late game. It's just a possibility. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm saying it's possible. And then LWX and Crisp. I mean, LWX is not good anymore. LWX is not elite anymore. I think that's an important distinction to make. So sorry if I offended anybody. What I mean to say is that he is not a true difference maker as an AD carry. A lot of AD carries right now are utility players, and they do their job, and they go even in lane. And if you put a couple of kills on a silver platter for them, they're going to go get them. But there aren't many players who are willing to take it upon themselves as AD carries to completely carry a game consistently, and and their teams are dependent on them to do it. I honestly only think that Viper and Ruler are the 2 AD carries who can realistically fill in the like elite, true League of Legends AD carry right now. Now, like there are other players who might be able to show that they're capable of that, or there are going to be other players who are like definite playmakers. Like Karzi's a playmaker. A player like Jackie Love is a playmaker, but Jackie Love isn't at Worlds. A player like Danny's a legit playmaker for Evil Geniuses. Like I'm not saying that he's an elite AD carry right now, but if you told me a year or two from now a North American team with Danny is competitive, I really wouldn't be that surprised. And I know it probably seems like a really far ways away given the state of North American League of Legends, but it's possible. That's all I'm saying is it's possible. So let's move on to the LCS teams. So next up we have top LCS team. Top LCS team, C9. If they make it through the knockout stage, then they will be in the group with Damwon and FPX. I don't think that C9 matches up as well as Rogue does with Damwon Gaming or FPX, because I think that Sven he's not a true carry anymore. He plays AD carry, but he's not a true carry. His team doesn't play around him often for him to carry the game. Perks, I'm afraid of Perks right now because he's had such a bad year. And if Perks turned it around and played like an elite player at Worlds, I wouldn't be shocked at all, and I'd be very happy because I love C9 as like an organization. But I wouldn't bet my money on it. Like that's an important distinction to make. It's basically an emotional free roll where if C9 does well, I'll feel good regardless. Fudge in the top lane against Noguri and Khan, not great matchups for him. And then Blabber against Canyon. I'm going to take Canyon. Blabber against Tian. Maybe that works out. And then Blabber against Inspired. I think that's kind of... It's not... I think that based on like recent performance, you definitely have to give it to Inspired. But talent-wise, I think that Blabber is actually underrated right now because he's had a really tough split and people forget how good Blabber is at their peak. Then let's go to 100 Thieves and Team Liquid. So I think that those two are very close. I think that people are probably more willing to see how Team Liquid wins games because everybody else is a little bit lower on Gen G than I am. Everybody's higher on Mad Lions than I am, but I think people still realize that Team Liquid could win a game off of them. And then Team Liquid up against potentially LNG. That's a tough one, but they would need to win like one game against Gen G, one game against Mad Lions, and then maybe one game against LNG, and they'd be alive at that point because none of the North American teams have easy wins in their group. Maybe 100 Thieves could potentially, depending on who would the play-in team have to be to get into 100 Thieves group. So that's really what you have to ask yourself. Like if you want to make a bet like this for yourself, you need to determine who are the possible teams 100 Thieves has to play against, and what is the maximum number of wins I could see 100 Thieves getting. So personally, I don't think that they're going to 2-0 EDG. I don't think they're going to 2-0 T1. I think that it's unlikely they go 1-1 against EDG, and I think it's unlikely they go 1-1 against T1. I think it's certainly possible. So I'm willing to give them like a half game against EDG, a half game against T1. So that's one win. And then if they have the weakest play-in team, and in the most optimistic scenario, you want to give them a 2-0, I would say the maximum number of wins that 100 Thieves is going to get in their group, realistically, is 3. Maybe 4. So 3 or 4. For C9, I think that it's probably between 2 to 3. And then for Team Liquid, I think it's 1 game against Gen G, max. Potentially 2 games against Mad Lions. I really do think that. And then probably 1 game at most against LNG. So that would be 4. So 3 to 4 again. So it's really just a choice between 100 Thieves and Team Liquid. I went with the Team Liquid side because I do like Alfari against Armlet. I think that Alfari against Rascal is okay if they play around Alfari. And then I think Alfari against Ale is not great for Alfari because Ali's a really good player. But I could see it happening. So that's that. The next one is top LPL team. So top LPL team is a better bet than betting on the individual LPL teams to win Worlds, I think. I don't know if the math completely checks out, but FPX is listed at 165 to win Worlds and 120 to be the best LPL team. So this means if we get into the semifinals and FPX is the only Chinese team left, then you win your bet. So like it's a more simple bet to hit. I don't think I necessarily want to bet FPX to be the best team at Worlds at that number, but that's how you'd have to kind of come to that determination. Definition focus me. Okay, so then winner of Group B in the play-in stage. I went with Detonation Focus Me because I vividly remember somebody on one of the broadcasts, I think at MSI, explaining like how highly revered Arya was as like an amateur player, and how they like brought them over to Japan, and they had to rearrange their roster so that they could have a slot available for Arya. And then they get to MSI, and you see them in a couple matches, and Arya looked like a pretty good player, but they kept putting them in terrible spots to carry matches. Like they put them on Seraphine, just some very questionable decisions like that. But in this group with Beyond Gaming, Cloud9, Detonation Focus Me, Galatasaray, and Unicorns of Love, I'm pretty sure that C9 is the favorite, which I think is kind of crazy. And then Detonation Focus Me, Galatasaray, Unicorns of Love, and Beyond Gaming are all around like plus. I think three of the four teams are around plus 500, and one of the teams is around plus 200. So I think that Detonation Focus Me, I'm willing to bet $20 to win $110 that Arya has a great performance and is able to win their group. That seems good enough to me. I don't see why Galatasaray should be thought of as better than them. I know that C9 probably should beat them, but I'm not 100% convinced. I think that Beyond Gaming is overrated at this point because people want to take the success of PSG and just throw it on to Beyond Gaming just because. Like, we've only seen Doggo before, I think. So why should we believe in any of those other players? And that's ultimately how I came to the decision to make this bet. And that's basically it. So that's where I'm at right now. I've made 9 bets for $20 each. That's basically it. So it's been about a half an hour. It's went a little bit longer than I kind of anticipated. But when there are new markets that come out, I'm going to like try to figure out what bet I like, and then once I make more bets, I'll update everybody on the channel with a new video coming out explaining what bets I made, why I made them. I'm going to bet on every single game at Worlds. Every single game. And then when we get to the knockout stage, every match. Like, I'm not going to bet every game during the best of fives. I'll bet every match, though. So every individual matchup, I'll be betting. And, you know, if I go to 0, then I'm going to stop betting. But I probably won't go to 0, and I just jinxed myself. So when I have $0, you know, on October 14th, feel free to make fun of me. But that's all I've got for you today. My name's Pikel. Check out my Patreon, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, subscribe, follow, all of those good things. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.